All right. So this was in 1979. I was about 11 years old. I'm a twin, and the dream was me and my twin sister were kind of really hard sludging through a canal that was really thick mud. And on both sides of the canal were really, they weren't big trees, they were skinny trees, but there's so many of them so close that we couldn't get
Your
out.
sound cut out. Your sound cut out. You said you were trudging through a canal and mud.
Uh-huh. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So we were trudging through this canal, kind of muddy and
Hmm.
really hard to push forward. And on either side was trees that were kind of small, but there's so many that we couldn't get out. And it was, couldn't even see daylight through the trees. So we kept going until hoping that we could find a way out. And up ahead on the left, we could see a spot that was kind of open. And behind that open area was a hospital. And there was a nurse standing outside smoking a cigarette. And it was all kind of 70s ish kind of looking building. And the only way we could climb out and get to the hospital was through this big metal giant piston thing that was coming down, smashing kind of like a hammer. And it was
Hmm.
hot. It was super hot. So we had to time it just right to get through. Plus, it was hot. So we had to, kind of quickly go through. And we were hoping in the hospital that we could get some answers or hope. And as we walked through the halls, nobody would talk to us. Nobody would even talk or acknowledge us. So we knew this wasn't the place to be, and we
Hmm.
had to go back through that hammer thing back into the canal and keep looking. And I made it through, but my sister didn't, and it came down and smashed her. And when it came back up, she was taffy. And I was trying to grab the taffy to save her, and it wasn't working. So I went back into the canal by myself, trudging forward. And it ended there, but it's the only dream I've ever had where I've woken up with my pillow just soaked in tears.
Mm. Wow. Mourning the loss of your sister, clearly,
Yeah.
in the dream. Okay. That's really a really interesting dream. You said you were about 11 when you had it.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, the first thing I heard was, forest for the trees. Like you can't see the forest for all other trees, kind of a thing. And like you said, there were so many. There were little trees along the canal, but there were so many of them that you literally like couldn't even see daylight through them. Like it was just so thick. I'm a hunter,
Yeah.
and when we go into the woods, we call that a thicket. It's just like so. It's not where you want to be walking through because it's
Yeah.
just so hard to push through. But it's where things like deer and rabbits tend to take shelter because of the fact that it's really hidden and good. Being in a canal, though, is interesting because typically a canal is lower than everything else around you. It's like a mini ravine. And it's where a source of water is. If it's a dry canal, then it's where the water was. But typically, in a lot of situations, it's like you said, it's very muddy. So you're literally trudging through the mud in a lower, kind of recessed, hidden area surrounded by a very dense thicket that you can't see light through. So it represents several things. It represents the idea of being in a low place, meaning being in a difficult place, being in a valley. It represents trudging through the mud, which is the idea of feeling stuck or not having much forward momentum at all. And then it represents the idea of to try to come out of that is to try to push through the thicket. And it's so thick and dense with vegetation that it's almost impossible to get through, but then you get through it and then you see a hospital. And for you, I think it's interesting that the hospital is like the symbol of help. It's a symbol of hope. Like, if we can get there, we can get help. They can tell us what's going on. They can show us what's up. If you need medical attention or food or whatever, if you were lost in the woods for a long time, that would be certainly a place that people would much rather be than stuck in a canal in the woods, in a low place. But so is it the entrance of the hospital where this big hammer thing is?
No, it's the back where no one really goes through, the back entrance.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie The Rock with Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage?
No.
So they're trying to sneak in the backside of Alcatraz. And there's this it's timed, but it's like this furnace that blasts fire, and there's like this big hammer thing or whatever that comes down, and they have to roll through at exactly the right moment or they're going to be killed or burned alive or whatever. And so that's what it reminded me of. Was it's literally the idea, especially if it's going in the back, it's the idea of a way of either breaking in or getting out. Now, in the movie The Rock, of course, Sean Connery had escaped from Alcatraz before, and now they were trying to gain access back into it. So it's the idea of a secret entrance or a secret exit. In your case, it was both. It was going in and then coming out. And you made it in fine, but it wasn't the normal way. It was the secret, hidden, kind of industrial, going in through the manifold of the furnace kind of, type of scenario. And it was very perilous. And you go through, both of you together. Was it just you and her, or was there anybody else with you?
Just me and her.
Okay. So you make it out of the woods. You go through this kind of running this gauntlet, this hammer thing to get inside the hospital. Once you're inside, you can ask for help. You want to ask, you see people, but nobody acknowledges you. It's almost like you're invisible, right? Like they can't see you at all. So I think that's
they could see us, but they didn't see us as important.
Okay. They just didn't acknowledge you. And so were you there to just find out what was going on? You didn't need medical attention, it didn't sound like, right?
No. We just wanted to know why life was like that, just trudging through a canal.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And so you make it in, but you don't get the satisfaction that you need. You find people, they see you, nobody talks to you. So it's the idea of being in, a community, coming out of that difficult place that you were in, and being in a community, but not being in a place where you're really acknowledged or accepted, per se.
Yeah.
And so at this point, you're like, okay, well, we're just going to leave. And you're going to go, instead of out the main entrance, you're going to go back out the way you came.
Yeah.
And so then what happens, of course, is you go out, and then your sister goes out, and then your sister gets crushed, and you're not crushed, but she's like this taffy thing. It reminded me of like Gumby kind of a thing, for very stretchy and malleable, and but for you, you were literally trying to, inconsolable, trying to put these pieces back together. Obviously, there was no way you could stick the taffy back together, so it was your sister. So then coming to the realization of the idea that I can't fix this, and now I've lost her, and then waking up with the tears and the grieving and going through that. So did that pretty much describe the dream?
Yeah.
All right. So coming out of a difficult place, a low place, a place that was hard to see, where you literally had no vision, you couldn't see your way out of, and feeling stuck in that place, you come into an opening or a clearing where now you can be able to see, now you can see things a little bit further away than what was directly in front of your nose when you're in the, pushing through the thicket in the valley in the mud. And now there's a hospital. And so you're like, this is a beacon of hope. This is a place of help. We tend to think of people in hospitals as being nice and kind and willing to help and that kind of thing. And so you feel like, okay, the arduous part of the journey is over. I'm at a place now where I'll be taken care of whatever happens. And then you have to go through this thing to get in where you get hammered, or where you could get hammered. You both make it in safely. I feel like that entrance represents not only a hidden door or a hidden passageway, but a passage that's fraught with bad. I'm just hearing bad odds and danger or peril. You know, I did have that thought as well too. That Lisa had a thought here. Isn't the church supposed to be a hospital? Absolutely, it is. I had that thought as well. And of course, the whole idea of not being seen, I think there's a lot of people that feel, especially in certain demographics, like single people, feel that just not seen in churches, and they don't feel, that they fit in a lot of times.
Okay, that
And
makes
so that,
sense.
yeah. And then leaving and having to go through that again, like it was hard enough to get in. Now it's got to be hard to get out too. Like you literally could get hammered either way, coming or going,
Wow.
And so when the vision clears and you can finally see, you have what you feel is a representation of hope, but it's not, because you could get hammered,
Wow.
killed, really going in or coming out. And then you get in and you're ignored, and then you get out and you lose your sister.
That
So
can I say something about that?
yeah, please.
Um, just recently, I've exited, or like you're saying, I left my church, and
Oh, wow.
now I need to. Um, my church is Jesus now, so
Hmm.
it kind of goes right along with what's going on in my life right now. So my sister has not left our church yet. She's still there and struggling with the thought of how to do that.
Yeah.
So we both didn't feel our whole life pretty much welcomed there. And we just realized that it was not the place to be at, at my late stage.
Hmm.
So
Why is she still there?
her husband works for the church, and
Hmm.
if she feels like if she left the church that he would leave her.
Wow. Wow. Well, I'm sorry, the dream is a really deep dream. There's a lot of stuff there. Um, I can see why you would feel like you're stuck in a low place with no vision. And then thinking, okay, well, there's a hospital. I could get some help. And then literally, and this isn't, people are people. And as long as there's people in churches, there's flawed churches. That's just the way it is. But unfortunately, some people, they have a real hard time going to church because they've literally been hammered. They've felt judgment. They felt ostracized. They've been rejected. They haven't been taken care of. They've been hurt or abused by pastors, by leaders, by other people in ministry. Um,
Mhm.
you know, and they feel like, I keep trying to go back into this place that's supposed to be good for me. It's supposed to be helpful. It's supposed to be a place of healing, and it's not, and it's risky. Like I could go in and I could make it out unscathed, or I could go in and I could get clobbered, and then I have to go through years of understanding what this why this happened, dealing with trauma, basically. And so
Mhm.
that's what happened in the dream is you made it out safely, but your sister did not, and then you were left trying to pick up the pieces, and it was difficult.
Yeah.
hammered or dying. I do believe that there is some things that, and I feel like they're emotional things, um, that you and or your sister or both are going through related to the position that you've been in. I don't need to know your story. You don't have to share any of that. You can share as much as you want, but you certainly aren't obligated to unpack your life on camera. you know, but
Yeah.
I felt like it was those three things: feeling stuck in a low place with no vision. That describes
Yeah.
the first thing in the woods. The second is the hope. Okay, now we can see we're no longer stuck and we're not in a low place. I don't know if this is true, but I felt like when you came out and you could see the hospital, it was almost like you were in an elevated place looking down. Was that how it was or no?
No, we were just level on the asphalt walking towards the hospital and then into the back door.
Okay. All right. So the canal was lower and you came up out of the
Yeah.
canal to a
Yeah.
parking lot, literally a paved place,
In the
right?
back. Yeah.
In the back. And then you went, okay, yeah. Yeah. So, it's like making the crooked way straight, the idea of being stuck in a low place and now having a vision and seeing a place of help. The problem is, can we make it through the gauntlet and not get hammered? And even when we get inside, even if we do make it and we don't get hammered, are we going to find what we're looking for inside? I feel like this dream is about two things in particular. I feel like there's some things, and you'll know what they are, that are in your life and in your heart where this has happened to you. And either you are looking for a place of safety, and I feel like particularly related to the church, and you didn't find the place of safety, and or you saw somebody that really got hurt. They really got hammered, and I feel like it was a spirit of religion. It was judgment. It was just bam, we don't
Yeah.
accept you because you're this, you're that, or you're divorced, or you did this, or you made this, and they just got clobbered, and it destroyed them. And you were left as that friend, or very, very close, and it could be your sister, but it was somebody that you were very, very close to, and you were just like, good Lord, I gotta try to put this person back together, and you can't, because you weren't the one that tore them apart, and ultimately that the healing is God's. And so it's it's interesting because the whole dream is about struggle. The entire dream, you never really make it. You make it to a clearing, and then you're like,
Mhm.
okay, well, now we're out of where we were, and now we need to get into the hospital. But then we go through the hammering part to get into the hospital. And then you're in the hospital and you're not accepted. And then you're like, well, now we need to move and shift positions to go somewhere else. And what I feel like this is God is, and this is just really clearly, is God is saying that He has a place for you and your family, you and your sister, because your sister represents your family, you and your family, you and your sister, you and your loved ones. And it's going to be a place where you can see and be seen, because you couldn't see when you were in the jungle or the woods or the thicket. And then when you're in the hospital, they can see you, but they don't acknowledge you. So you're not seen. Here we go. See,
Mhm.
you're not seen in there. And God is saying that He has a place of safety for you, of hope for you, that you don't have to walk on eggshells, that you don't have to run the gauntlet, that you're not going to be in danger of getting hammered, or you're going to be part of a community, and you're going to be seen, and you're going to be acknowledged, and you're going to be an important part of that. And you're also going to be part of welcoming others in, and you're not going to have to go through this gauntlet. You'll be able to come and go as you want, but it's going to be that place that you're going to want to stay. It's going to be what you felt when you came into the dream and you saw the hospital, where you're like, we can get help, it's going to be safe, we can go there, and it's going to be okay. And in the dream, it was anything but that. In fact, the greatest tragedy wasn't in the jungle, it was in the hospital, trying to come out of a place where you were feeling. And so I feel like there's a promise in it for you and a mandate. The promise is God has that for you. The mandate is create it for others. Because I
Yeah.
feel like, and again, you don't have to unpack your whole life here, but I feel like you've been through this. You've been feeling stuck. You've been in a place with no vision. You've been in a low you know, humble place, but also just a place that was just really, really hard. It was like a sewer almost. It was difficult circumstances. And you came out of that where now you can see, but so you know what it's like. And so I feel like part of what this is God says that I feel like God is saying that he has a place of community for you, that you're going to be loved and seen and accepted. It's going to be a place of hope. It's going to be a place of safety. It's going to be a place of vision. It's going to be a place of protection from the elements, but you're going to be seen and you're going to be heard. You're not going to have the hammer, but also that then you become, when the next person walks in, you're somebody that's already there. So it's the idea of even beginning to use the family that you have, you're with your sister, and begin to create community. Um, I mean, whether it's a Bible study, it's a dream night, it doesn't even matter what it is, but where you begin to create this place where other people can come in and they can get the help that they need as well. They can come in from the outside, they can come in from not knowing, and it may even have to do with dreams because you were in a place of no vision and no explanation. And the one thing that you wanted in the hospital is you wanted an answer. What's going on? Why is this happening? And you didn't get it,
Yeah.
but you're gonna.
Wow. That's awesome. Thank you.
I got a friend
I
that
love
says,
those
kind
words.
of, yeah, I got a friend that, he was homeless and now he's a multi-millionaire. And he says, when you become successful, um, become the person that you needed when you were at your lowest. So begin to be in that hospital, that community, create that warm environment and see the people that nobody else sees and begin to approach them and let them know that they're loved and accepted. And if everybody did that in a church, churches would be so packed that
Yeah.
everybody in America and probably around the world would be in a church. If they knew they could go in, have a place of safety, feel loved and accepted and not judged, it would be the Father's house as he designed it to be.
Cool. Sounds good.
Great. I love it. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Thank you.